Patnaik in absentia, Honorable Chief Minister of Odisha, Chief Dharmendra Pradhan, Union Minister of Education, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Dr. Harivansh, Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha. Thank you for having me here to talk about science. I'm often asked on various occasions, how can I do so many things that I do? Poet, writer, journalist, I seem to be doing it. Actually, I don't do too many things. All of these are part of the same one thing that I do, which is carrying on this great tradition we have in India of storytelling. I'm not a historian, I'm not a mythologist. I talk only of what I see. I talk about my times, I talk about my people, I talk about what is happening around me. And life has taught me that there are three fundamental things that can help you sail through. First of all, passion. Life taught me that whatever I do, I ought to do with passion, and if I did it with passion, I had a fairly good chance of making a success of it. Because passion always gets you to the finishing line. It's the swiftest, easiest, simplest route to success. We should sidestep cynicism. The most important thing is to sidestep cynicism, self-doubt, sidestep fears, sidestep all the other issues that others warn you about, and pursue your dreams, your hopes, your loves with passion. Pursue it with ardor, and you will make good of it. People bow before ardor. Circumstances bow before the intensity of your conviction. If you feel strongly about something, you will make good of it. Let me give you a small example. I was a national science scholar after I left school. But when I went to college, I wanted to be a writer, and I've always wanted to be a writer, a poet. Imagine that, a full-time poet. That was my dream. My day job kept changing. I began working as a peon somewhere on Benting Street in Calcutta. Then I moved on to become a traveling salesman for Binaka toothpaste. Then I moved on to being an accounts clerk somewhere. And then a copywriter, a photographer, a designer. But my real intent was to be a writer. And at 17, when my first book, 16 or 17, I think, my first book appeared. And then books started appearing everywhere, from across the world, in fact. Until one day, somewhere in my later 20s or mid-20s, I got a Padma Shri which somehow affirmed the fact that I was a writer. And the world began to recognize me. And that too in English, a language in which I kept failing in school, a language in which I could not get admission into a college. My highest score in school, and I did rather well there, was in Hindi. My second highest score was in Bengali, my mother tongue. But I wanted to be a writer in English. I wanted to talk to the world. I wanted to tell the world about India. I wanted to tell the world about what I see around me. I wanted to tell the world about our dreams, our aspirations, our hopes. And I never got a chance to do that. So the academic system, there is something worrisome in a system that rewards you for your worst skills and ignores what you want to be. Okay, so and one day, so I kept writing, and my experiences, my life became my poetry. And then one day, a decade later, I felt that it was not enough to write about the world around me as a poet. I needed to change. So I packed up my bags, left the city where I was born and brought up, Kolkata, left behind my library of books, and traveled to a business city, Bombay. It was called Bombay then. And I traveled there to lead India's top media organization in those days, the Times of India, which was not in very good shape, I remember. And from that day, I became a full-time journalist and editor. My first job was as the editor of the Illustrated Weekly, which had been shut down. I think the last copy sold was some 13,000 or 11,000 copies. And the first thing that the chairman told me was that whatever you do, don't try to revive the weekly. It's a waste of time, and you'll come up cropper. So the first thing I did, the very first thing I did was I decided to revive the weekly. We started off with, on the 2nd October, on Gandhi Divas, on 1983, the first issue sold 50,000 copies. Within 6 issues, we beat our all-time record of sales. And we were the #1 magazine in the country. It was all about passion, the passion to do something. It's not my achievement. It was the achievement of the journalists who worked with me. It was the achievement of the stories of the people who came to us with stories. It was the achievement of those who inspired us to write those stories, our readers. And story after story told the two people the true story of India. It was India, after all, which mattered. We took our readers into the very heart of India to discover the best of its traditions, its finest achievers, and its biggest rogues. We bravely exposed we bravely exposed the wrongs that held us back from achieving our true potential as a nation. The system fought back. We had many defamation cases, issues were banned, but the people were with us, and the weekly became the legend of that era. A decade later, I moved on to television journalism, anticipating that the visual language of news would take over, news and entertainment. And then a few years later, when the internet happened, I started India's first cyber cafe, evangelizing the future of communications. Today, as you all know, the world is divided into two sets of people: those who were born before the internet and those who were born into the internet. The so-called millennials, the post-millennials, Generation X, Y, Generation Z, Generation Alpha, who play with iPads in their cribs. What saw me through this journey, once again, was passion. And that power, today we make movies, we make television shows, which are shown in 240 countries of the world. India is one of the most powerful sources, Mr. Minister, this will interest you, in creative skills. People, we talk always about developing manufacturing skills, developing technical skills, developing computer skills. What we don't talk about very often is the creative genius of this country. This country is a country of storytellers. Today, there are 190-odd nations in the United Nations. My shows, our shows, reach 240 countries and regions. Why? Because people love stories from India. And on each film that we make, in each series that we tell to the world, there are about 5,000, 6,000 people who work on it. People who come from the humblest of origins, from Dharavi, from the lowest economic strata of society, but they have the highest of talent. So our musicians, our choreographers, our singers, they all come from the most incredible places, from the most obscure places, and they open up India for the world to see. This is the genius of India. And this is the genius, this is the story of Indian storytelling. There are few nations in the world which have achieved this. And India is today one of the central points of great creative talent. If we encourage it, if we support it, if we incentivize it, as many other countries of the world are doing, India will be the greatest nation on earth on the basis of its soft power. We are constantly talking about, when the rest of the world talks about power in a different sense, we talk about power in another sense. We can move the hearts and minds of the world. We have that capacity. So, the next thing, as I said, was in this journey is fearlessness. People must feel the fearless need to be themselves, to not, to not try and be what others want you to be, but to seek out your own destiny with courage, with dignity, with pride. You must be free as a people, free as a nation, free to hope, dream, achieve what we want, free to talk truth to power. And that brings me to the third most important thing, freedom. Remember, no one gives you freedom. Freedom is what you seize. You seize it from your parents, from your teachers, from your bosses at work, from those who want to control your lives. Freedom of choice, freedom of speech, freedom of desire, freedom to love who you want, what you want without having to explain why, freedom to stand up for your rights. There's one thing that I've fought for all my life, and it's this freedom. My freedom, your freedom, everyone's freedom. In a society where freedom is in peril, everything is in peril. You, ladies and gentlemen, you are in peril. Freedom is the courage to think, write, speak, love, worship, discover your sense of moral, sexual, political identity freely. Freedom is your dignity. When you lose freedom, you lose your dignity, you lose your identity, you lose your power to be who you are and what you want to be. At the heart of all success lies freedom. It is your only ticket to fame. And that, my friends, is what I came to tell you today. Be passionate, be fearless, be free. These are difficult times. We are walking towards an unknown future. We've come through a frightening pandemic. We are going headlong into a global recession. Climate change is unforgiving, and the World Bank said yesterday that India will be one of the countries hardest hit by the heat waves impossible to face. There's inflation too. Wide-scale joblessness across the world. Technology is freeing us and hurting us at the same time. Our privacy is under siege. My life, and I'm living in the autumn of it, where the yellow leaves are falling all around me and the birds are winging homewards, and night gently descends. But my life is a tiny testament to the belief that anyone in this great country of ours can achieve anything. You don't need privilege. I had none. You don't need riches. I had none. You don't need anything. I had nothing. Apart from courage, self-esteem and dignity. You are who you are because no one else can be you. You are special, unique. Enjoy it, celebrate it, be proud of it. Let not the darkness around you injure your faith in yourself. Life has given you an incredible opportunity. Seize it. Seize it and make it yours. Thank you.